Hello, Epic 7 newbies, this is Suspect Amy, and I'm here to do a quick video about the upcoming Moonlight waifu, Hellion Lua, or as I will be calling her, Hellua. Guys, quit trying to make Hua a thing, let's not confuse people. Anyways, Hellua's mystic banner will appear in just a few short days on November 7th. I want to talk a little bit about how I think she'll impact the meta, and whether or not she's worth wasting those precious mystic medals on. Judging by Reddit, most of the player base think Hellua's kit is between mid and hot garbage. However, I absolutely guarantee you that those same players will be crapping their pants if their opponent 5th picks her in RTA. So which is it? Is she hot garbage or is she so good that she's a force ban? Before we jump into that, let's detour on her looks. The community doesn't like the fact that she looks nothing like her original character and instead looks like Iron Mouse. Here's a funny quote. Nakwal looks more like ML Lua than ML Lua. Let's compare, shall we? We'll pretend Lua is being upgraded to this character as her Moonlight variant. Not bad. I can see the resemblance. Now here she is with her true Moonlight version. Sorry guys, I think Hellua is better. Their faces need to at least look the same, right? Okay, let's get to know Hellion Lua. She's a Dark Pisces Ranger. I know for most of you, this means absolutely nothing, so let me break down Rangers by their signs, then rank where Pisces fits in. Here's what's notable. Pisces is the 3rd fastest Ranger sign with the highest health and 2nd highest defense. In pretty much every other stat line, attack, effectiveness, crit, Pisces is near the bottom. This is exactly the same stat line as Blue Lua, so however fast or bulky you were able to build her before, that should be a good reference for how fast and bulky Hellua will be when she arrives. Hellua gives everyone health with her imprint, but can self-imprint for up to 27% effectiveness. Let's get into Hellua's kit. It's just plain weird, so let me break it down into 2 parts to make her easier to understand, with and without her challenge ability. Without challenge, you have this. Hellua's S3 is a non-attack skill very similar to Blue Lua's S3. It strips and provokes all enemies to focus on her and gives herself a defense buff. Her S1 also provokes, but only on a single target. Anytime someone hits Hellua, her passive pushes her whole team forward in the turn order by 10%. To make things interesting, Hellua can soul burn her S3 to completely ignore effect resistance and guarantee her provoke on everyone. Okay, let's stop right there for a second. Hellua already seems like a decent cleave setup unit. If she goes first and gets her S3 off, technically, that will disable the enemy team's abilities for a whole round while giving her team a 40% push. If you pair her with 3 common cleave heroes, that should be enough to finish off most enemy teams, as long as they don't have anti-cleave passives, of course. What makes Hellua's kit impressive is that you're not dependent on CR manipulating heroes to cleave anymore. You know the ones. Ida, Summer Iseria, Astromancer, Jacko, Requiem Rowana, just to name a few. Pretty much anyone can be a cleaver in a Hellua team. Want Fire Araminta to cleave? Go for it. Is it time for Green Bellona to cleave? Sure, why not? Is it Luluka's time to shine? I guess. In a perfect setup, your whole team will go before the enemy can use any skills regardless of CR manipulation. I'll get into counters a bit later. For now, let's talk about Challenge. Hellua's S3 also gives her whole team a buff called Challenge. Challenge can't be dispelled and is pretty straightforward. When Hellua is attacked, everyone who has a challenge buff will counterattack. This only happens once, so if she provokes 4 enemies at the start of battle, only the first attacker will be countered. After someone uses Challenge for a counterattack, it changes into a 30% speed buff. This speed buff is totally being slept on. I feel like this, combined with Hellua's push, will mean that most cleave teams will lap to get 2 full turns before the enemy can use a single ability. Remember, Hellua has a 100% provoke on her S1. This means that the enemy's fastest unit will be provoked on open, then provoked again from Hellua's challenge counter. That is, if they happen to survive. This lapping is incredibly strong for units that take a couple of turns to set up. I can see Green Vivian taking advantage of this in a big way. Same with heroes like Lethe and SSB. You guys know that Iseria will be itching to set someone up for devastation. Now, The final piece of the puzzle is that an enemy hit with a challenge counter will lose an extra 8% of their health. To me, this isn't that big of a deal compared to the rest of her kit. This just means you have a better chance to kill the enemy's opener right away. As I mentioned previously, Hellua was reprovoking them anyways, so they weren't much of a threat, but hey, extra damage is extra damage. Players on Reddit are theory crafting around having a team full of AoE S1 abilities and knocking the whole enemy team to half health right off the bat. In my eyes, Hellua's countering abilities and extra damage are just a bonus. Her ability to control the battlefield with Provoke and push her team is where she'll shine. I consider Provoke to be one of the strongest control buffs in the game. So many heroes are immune to sleep and stun now, but almost none are immune to Provoke. When Hellua was announced, everyone immediately said Mort's anti-counter mechanic will turn her into hot garbage. Let's play this scenario out. Hellua opens and provokes Mort's whole team. They attack her. Sure, she doesn't counter, but her team pushes and, well, I guess you're just hoping that you drafted an anti-cleave unit to rescue Mort here. So, who is Hellua good into? Because of her push and high defensive stats, she'll play great into teams with a lot of AoE. Her counter mechanic should also play well into damage mitigating units like Gala and Spirit Eye. What about meta units? How does she do against Harsetti? Horribly. Even though Harsetti does a lot of AoEs, they won't push Hellua and she can buff block challenge. However, on the opposite side of things, Hellua plays really well paired with Harsetti because CR push is so dominant when Harsetti is on the field, and her S1 is pretty good for challenge counters. This kind of sucks. Harsetti is the most dominant unit in the game right now, and the brand new ML 5-star is worthless against her. Instead, they give Harsetti the perfect partner in crime. Since we're on the topic, let's just continue talking about Hellua's hard counters. Provoke control is everything to Hellua. Without it, she is a useless pile of garbage. This is because the enemy can simply not attack her to completely negate her CR push and challenge counters. Self-cleansing heroes like Laya and Handguy are incredibly hard counters to her. Ambitious Tywin would be another strong counter, because he'll cleanse his team when he's hit. Selene and Politis are awesome offensive counters due to Hellua's S3 being a non-attack skill. Haste has potential to be strong against her because he'll automatically shield his team if someone dies from challenge counters. This will help block cleave, then he can likely revive them later. You may think that heroes that punish counters, like Rowana, Lionheart Sirmia, and Biblis are incredible against Hellua. But remember the Mort scenario I mentioned? Even if they negate her counters, she doesn't care. She still pushed her whole team ahead 40%, so you'll probably just be cleaved anyways. Luna is a strong counter to anyone with a passive completely disabling her push and challenge abilities. But this is Hellua we're talking about. Even without her push, she can still AoE provoke your team for one round. Then you'll just be wrecked when Hellua's team takes their turn. Who is she good with? I mentioned Harsetti and some setup units, as well as slow cleavers. If you want to cleave, I strongly recommend bringing Astromancer Elena. Counter attacks while cleaving is such a buzzkill, and Elena is a top-tier AoE damage dealer. Honestly, anyone with a strong S1 is a perfect pair for her. Yufine is probably best in slot because she has AoE on her S1, and the more she S1s, the more she advances her time bomb. Bellion with 3F has an incredibly hard-hitting S1. Candy also gains fighting spirit with her S1. I mentioned heroes who need a couple of turns to set up that can take advantage of Hellua's lap mechanics. This includes Pirate Captain Flan and Fumir. A bunch of S1s can trigger extra attacks, like Archdemon, Chu, Rem, Solitaria, Riolette, Spirit Eye, Silverblade. There's too many to count, but let's just say you should have very little problem finding someone to pair her with. Mort has a strong S1 and can cleave, but you obviously never want to play him with Hellua. Frida, or preferably a mage with book, is also a must-have on the team. Mages like Dizzy or Arya could really shine alongside Hellua, so how should you build her? In my mind, her ideal build as an opener is relatively hard to pull off. She needs to be very fast, but have enough bulk to take a bunch of S1 hits. You may also need effectiveness, depending on how confident you are on your turn 1 cleaving abilities. If you want to go bulk instead of speed, I can see her being a really strong piece in Turtle or Harsetti teams. And last but not least, What artifacts are good choices for her? Hellua's kit is great, because basically every ranger in existence uses guiding light by default. But having her go stealth makes zero sense with her provoke, so we finally get to think outside the box. If she's having trouble tanking the provokes, glow wings or POV will help. Unseen Observer will make Hellua's S3 gain more souls and increase her CR. Andre's crossbow increases your effectiveness and hit chance, so you can be sure to land provoke on those Flans and Aidens. If you think your challenge counters will kill the first attacker, Sash will push your whole team even more, basically guaranteeing a lap. Anyways, what do you guys think about Hellua? Are you gonna pull for her? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. That's all I have today. Thanks for watching my video. Bye everyone.